Okay, welcome to session two of this is May the 21st, and this is session two. So we're going to focus on the compass, and the compass is the actual tool that we go through every week that give us our bearing. This week, we're focusing on how to become a superhero, to find out who our superhero is. We're going to look at that because that's what part of your assignment was from last week, is to define that. If you haven't ever thought of who is the individual that is your superhero. And so I want to make sure, yeah. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to watch a very short clip from Todd Herman. He is the expert on helping Olympic athletes and military special forces do what most consider the impossible. So we're going to watch Todd real quick because he's the best coach on this. And then we're going to focus on inside of our compass. So if you don't have this, I want to make sure I'm going to put the link in here while you're watching this video. I'll put it in the chat, but I want to make sure that we have the ability to look at this and learn how to use this and add it into our life and why it's important to make it happen. All right, so hang on a second and we're going to watch Todd Herman. Here we go.
I've been focused on answering one question. For the past 25 years, I've been focused on answering one question. How can I help someone get out of their own way and have all their capabilities show up when it counts? Hi, I'm Todd Herman, author of The Alter Ego Effect and founder of the international training company Herman Performance Systems. I've been releasing the proverbial performance brake on Olympians, leaders, and achievers by crawling around between the 6 inches of their ears and giving them mental game strategies to win for 20 plus years. One of the things I discovered 15 years ago after working with hundreds of elite athletes is that the best of the best, the ones that consistently perform to their capabilities, left themselves on the sidelines and stepped onto the field of play with an alter ego, secret identity, or persona to unleash everything they had. When you're routinely hired to make an impact on someone's performance fast, the last thing you want to do is change someone, because the fear of change is one of the weapons the enemy likes to use to stop you, slow you down, or trip you up. The human mind is a complex network, and trying to attack internal problems directly is the game plan for an epic struggle. Instead, we leverage the superpower you and I are gifted with, the creative imagination. And we tap into its power to transform someone by using an alter ego to achieve excellence. The great thing about this strategy is you already know how to do it, and you did it as a child all the time. You and I just get hammered by the world around us to grow up and act our age, or we begin to worry about what others think of us and we shrink from the opportunities we want to pursue. In my book, I'll reveal just how universal this principle is and the celebrities, athletes, leaders, and average Joes and Jessicas throughout history and today that have created extraordinary worlds with the help of a secret identity. I'll show you the science of why this works so effectively and how it's the healthiest thing you could do mentally. I'll hand you all the component parts to create your own powerful alter ego, whether you're in sales, the creative arts, business, sports, or personal life. And here's the great part. You don't even need all of them to tap into this innate power, because fundamentally, you already know how to do it. I'm simply here to remind you and show you other ways you may not have thought to use it and reap the tremendous rewards of it. Now, if you'd like more grit, more fun, and less struggle, this is a tiny investment to make that happen, and I want you to do it with me. Plus, your future you will thank you. By the way, parents, kids eat this up, and there's a special section just for you.
Recording in progress.
Okay, got a nice little feedback there. Let's see if we can... Okay, so I just muted everyone, so I'll let you unmute yourself again. I don't know, sometimes we get that feedback. So comment with me, what did you learn here from Todd Herman? You have to take yourself off mute. What jumped out?
When you have an altered ego, you can sort of perform the qualities and the characteristics of that alter ego, which helps you benefit or do the task at hand.
So which ones of us have alter egos?
I think you muted.
No, I didn't. Can you not hear me?
Oh, sorry. I put mine on low because it was...
Okay, cool. All right.
Okay.
So how many of us have an alter ego?
I think we all do.
We all do. Okay. How many of you can remember when you were a child? Do you remember your alter ego?
Well, I don't remember it exactly, but I know that we pretended.
Sure. Well, that's where we learned our alter ego. It is in our pretending. Okay.
Yeah.
And who did you pretend to be? Do you remember?
Cinderella.
Awesome. No, and that's fine. Okay. All right.
Actually, it was quite a powerful way
Yeah.
that I did, because when my mom used to make me do the dishes, and my sisters were told didn't have to do the dishes.
Right.
I used to say that I'm Cinderella, and they were the ugly sisters when I was doing the dishes, and that made me okay about doing the dishes, because I thought my prince is going to come and save me.
Right. There you go. And now think about how well you use your imagination to do what? To persevere in a situation. You found a narrative called a story that came out in the version of a book or a movie or whatever, and your mind was able to relate to that to give you what? An alter ego. Because what is the story of Cinderella after she put up with her mean stepmother and her mean stepsisters that were always punishing her? What ultimately happened to her? Like you said, her Prince Charming showed up, right?
Yeah.
And what the story ends, like all wonderful stories, is you live happily ever after. Okay. So what you found is the ability to use your imagination to parallel your current life event to a story. And in your case, Cinderella was able to persevere in a superhuman fashion. That gave you what? The skills and the ability to do what?
To deal with my situation.
Yeah, you were able to cope. You were like, oh, Cinderella did this. And if Cinderella can do this and put up with her mean stepsisters, I can put up with my, I don't know if they weren't your stepsisters, but I can put up with my sisters and my mother. But what did it do? It gave you the imaginative ability to take a dream scenario that wasn't real. It was fictional. Cinderella's a fictional story, but you were able to take the fictional and grab it out of fiction and bring it into your reality. And it allowed you to persevere until you were able to get done with the dishes, whether that was something that was done that day or many, many years of doing dishes, but you were able to find that inspiration. Okay. So perfect, Nisa. Anyone else want to tell me about the story that you used to use when you were a kid, your imagination? Tell me about it. No one got a story? Okay. So I'll tell you one real quick. So I grew up, many of you know, my dad was Marine Recon. So I grew up idolizing all things military, especially if they were anything that was a special force mission that couldn't, wasn't supposed to be able to be done, but they were sent in there, paratrooped in or swam in or whatever and went and did the impossible. So early on, Rambo was one of my superheroes that I really liked. And interestingly enough, if you know Rambo, the thing that you see about every one of his movies is what happened. He got into scenarios that he was extremely outnumbered, that he had very little resources. He was usually in a foreign place that he didn't know very well. It wasn't his turf. And he had to figure out how to improvise and adapt and take out a much more well-equipped and larger number of. Go ahead, Steiner.
He's the underdog.
The underdog. He was always the underdog. He was the extreme underdog. And yet what happened is his ability, his mental toughness, his ability to take and do things that most people said couldn't be done. Well, he did it because he trained harder. He was faster. He just refused to quit. Okay. Now, interesting, if you study the comics, okay, I'll tell you about who my real quote superhero is, because part of our assignment from last week was to list who your superhero was and to explain why. So if you look in the old comics, do you know who trained Rambo to become his super self? Anybody?
The Colonel.
Captain America. Okay. So the way the comics go is back during the Vietnam era, Captain America, after he had been through World War II, was still, a superhero. And he actually trained the Marine unit where Rambo was actually from in that particular story. And excuse me, I'm saying Rambo. I'm talking about the Punisher. The Punisher is another superhero. And the Punisher was a Marine that is almost an anti-hero, kind of like Blade. But my point is it was Captain America that trained that Marine unit that was special capabilities. And from that Marine unit, their very top Marine capable individual was the Punisher. So you kind of get the storyline, okay? The comics are nothing but a few people's imaginations, whether it's Marvel or DC Comics or whatever, all the other ones. And they created alter egos, individuals that were capable of performing superhuman feats, okay? Now, the reason why I loved Captain America is because, number one, he exhibited what I call the ultimate expression of the red, white, and blue. In fact, his uniform, including his shield, was what? Red, white, and blue. And the whole point of what he did is he fought for the values, the principles, the ethics, the morals of what has made America the greatest country in history. And how does that have to be defended? It has to be defended by soldiers, Marines, sailors, airmen going many times to foreign countries, to hazardous locations where they're going to not be paid very well. They might not come back. But if they do their job extremely well, what happens on a top secret mission? Do you get to tell everybody about it? No, you can't tell anybody about your mission because it's top secret. So you don't ever get a ticker tape parade coming home with the confetti falling and everything. You're that unsung hero. At the end of the day, why do you do it? Why do you sign up to be a Captain America? You sign up because you want to make sure that everyone else gets to enjoy the freedoms of what America stands for. And to have those freedoms, that means you have to defend those individuals that would take those freedoms away. It means you have to fight against the opposition that would not want you to be free, that would want to enslave you. So since I was very young, it's been my idea that I want to be good enough, better version of myself, or educated enough, or enthusiastic enough, or motivated enough to do what? To fight for those ideals that allow us to have freedom, whether that's financial freedom, emotional freedom, relationship freedom, business freedom. All those come at a price. And the price is extra training. The price is extra sacrifice. The price is willing to do those things that other people won't. When other people want to quit, you got to keep going. You have to be the leader. You have to set the standard. So that's what works for me. Steiner, go ahead.
Yes, regarding superheroes, I have a short story. Regarding my dad, he actually trained James Bond to drive a motorbike.
Okay, awesome. How cool is that? Right.
It's talking about alter ego. It was Roger Moore.
Okay, Roger Moore. I was going to ask you which Bond was it? Was it Sean Connery?
Yeah,
But it was
Roger Moore in 1965.
Okay.
He was on a tour in Norway, and that was before he became he was actually in The Saint. Do you remember The Saint?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So it was a tour advertising his new movie.
Outstanding.
And where my dad worked, he trained him to do the show between others, to a competition in motorbiking with other celebrities.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. And when I heard that story as a kid, then you spark out big ideas, and it became, when I told my friends about it, it turns out to be much bigger than it was. Yeah. So I told my friends that my dad was driving against James Bond, and my dad won.
Right. So a little bit of right. A little bit of embellishment, and sometimes, that's the way legends grow. They get a little bit bigger than what they might have done. But here's the key thing: it changed your life? You can look at the expression on your face talking about the memory of the story. And the whole beautiful thing about our superhuman version is when you write it down in here. I have interviewed and hired, thousands of individuals for business over my 35 years of my career. And one of the questions I ask a lot of them, if they're going to work for me in my company, is tell me who your superhero is. Who is your hero? And if I get the answer of, I don't have one, then the person's actually fired. Interview's over.
Yeah, I think 007 must be mine.
There you go.
because I have so many other connection in a way. We also have one lady in the Lazenby film.
Okay.
The one with the only Bond film, Her Majesty's Service.
Okay, sure.
The one that Josh Lazenby starred in.
Okay.
And there we got a Bond lady who's actually from the same city as I am.
Okay.
And she went to the same school as my dad.
There you go.
And she also worked together with my father-in-law.
There you go.
Wow.
And we got one street called by her name.
There you go.
In Sandnes from my city.
Well, look at how your mind is creating all these connection points, okay? You know, how she went to school, came from the same city, from the same country, and she became a Bond woman, okay? And everybody knows over the years, there was that certain mystique about the Bond women that were in there, whether it was Sean Connery or Roger Moore or Timothy Dalton or Pierce Brosnan, or who's the newest guy? I'm blanking right now. Anyway, you know who the guy is. What's his name?
Daniel Craig. Is it Daniel Craig?
Craig? Yes.
Daniel Craig. That's it. Yeah. So the whole version of this is, you know, I'm a big Bond fan as well, but I also like Jason Bourne. So, you know, Jason Bourne is kind of like the American CIA version of the MI6 British version of the Bond, 006. So anyway, my point is when we see those individuals, why are we attracted to them? And what can we use that superhero concept for? When you write it down inside of your compass, what you're doing is you're framing who that alter ego is. And in the next session, we're going to start here in about 5 minutes. We're going to spend the third session today that we always focus on, the Masterclass, the P5 version, how we use prior preparation, planning, and practice to have performance. The alter ego is each of us have that opportunity to be that superhero that we idolize. And really what we're doing is we're putting on the cape, the cowl, the uniform in that alter ego. And remember what Aristotle taught Alexander 2,300 years ago. The most important lesson that he taught him at the palace in Macedonia was be as you wish to seem. Aristotle was telling Alexander to become the superhero version of himself. Do you happen to know, just from a trivia standpoint, what book was under Alexander's pillow every single night, including all the way through his military conquest and becoming the world emperor? Do you know what book was under his pillow that he read every single night? The Iliad by Homer. The Iliad and the Odyssey, many of you know both of those books are written by Homer. Some people say that they could have gone back 10,000 years. They were originally not written. They were told by bards, B-A-R-D-S, which were people that traveled and were storytellers around campfires. And they would go village to village to village, and that was their occupation. They would go tell stories for a couple of days around campfires, and they would continue to retell the story of the Iliad and the Odyssey. And eventually, someone finally took the stories that the bards were telling and converted them from just verbal story or oral stories into actually written stories, okay? But think about this. What was Alexander reliving in his mind every single night if he was rereading parts of the Iliad? If you know the Iliad, it's a 1,300-page tome, okay? I've read the Iliad and the Odyssey, and they take forever to read because they are huge and they're very small print, okay? But what was Alexander filling his mind with What story was he filling his mind with every single night from a young boy when Aristotle taught him this, all the way through 33 years old when he conquered more territory and more battles than any other single military individual still studied today at West Point and Annapolis because of his military capabilities? What book was he reading every night? Iliad. What was the Iliad telling him the story of? You know? The Iliad was the story of the 10-year battle at Troy, where all the Spartans or all the Greek cities came against the Trojans, and they fought. The culmination of that is where we have the Trojan horse, where the Greeks could not get into the city of Troy. They could not beat them. So they gave them, they left, or it looked like they left, and they left this big, huge monster wooden horse on the beach. And so when the Trojans came out to see it, they thought it was a gift, and they drug it inside their great city. And what was inside the wooden horse? The special forces of the Greeks. So when they drug it in there and they finally went to sleep that night after they thought they had finally won the 10-year battle, the Trojan horse, and at night, the soldiers broke out of it, opened the gate, let all the rest of the Spartans and the other Greek soldiers into the city of Troy, and Troy fell. And so that we know the story of the Trojan horse. But that is the version. The point that I'm making here is the battlefield that lasted for a decade. Can you imagine a battle where the same warriors fought again and again for 10 years? Same battlefield in front of the huge city of Troy, where the Greeks had set up all their ships, had come in across the Aegean Sea, and they fought for a decade. But who fought in the middle of this battle? Well, you had, let's see, we had Achilles that was there on the sides of the Greeks. You had, what's his name that was on the side of the Troy, their greatest warrior. It's on the tip of my tongue. But you had, who else was on the battlefield? You had Apollo and Athena and let's see, Poseidon. So you actually had the Greek gods that were part of the pantheon. They were actually coming down from the Acropolis and fighting on the battlefield among the other humans. So imagine this is a comic book, okay? Think about this. This is a comic book that was written thousands and thousands of years ago. And it ended up in the hands of a young boy named Alexander that was told by his professor to be as you wish to seem. Well, what was he trying to seem? He was trying to seem like the Apollo, the great warrior that was on the battlefield, like Achilles, that had only one weakness, and that was his heel. When you have the other Archimedes who was there, and who's the other individual that they wrote the Odyssey about? God, I can't believe it's too early this morning. I know my Greek stuff, and I'm blanking this morning. I haven't had enough coffee. But my point is, we're done with the session. What I wanted to give you is the exposure to Todd Herman's perspective that is saying the same thing that Aristotle said to Alexander 2,300 years ago. The culmination of learning how to use your imagination to become your alter ego, to continue to live what you did when you were a kid, and then everybody told you, oh, stop doing that. Stop having superheroes. Stop idolizing this ultimate version of yourself. That's kid stuff. And then you look at all these individuals that tell you to stop doing that, and you look at their performance. And is it really great, or is it really embarrassing? It's really embarrassing. And yet you see the individuals that are up on the podium that are getting the gold medals around their head, and guess who their coach is? Their coach is Todd Herman. And what is Todd Herman telling you? How to get up on the podium to win the gold, to swim faster, to run faster, to cycle longer. All those things that are superhuman. And if you do it against all the other superhumans and you have your imagination correct, you get to excel even among all the Olympiads, and you become the elite Olympiad that wears the gold. Wow. So do you think it's worth maybe getting Todd Herman's book, Alter Ego, or watching some of his videos? Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to share in the actual version of this that I'm going to put on the recording. I'm going to put the link in there for the playlist of Todd Herman's explanation, so you can just jump in there and watch a lot of his videos. You want to get his book, absolutely get it. I don't get anything from it. It's just worth reading it. It's worth learning. Why? Because it's those very minor adjustments that are going to allow you to become better each day. And better each day means you becoming what? That version of your superhero that you've been told your entire life you're not supposed to be. Now it's time to become that. Okay. Awesome. All right. So we've got to jump to our third session, and I'm going to open up my browser here just a second. And I'm going to get you that link. Give me half a second. And here we go. I'm going to put this in the chat. All right, there it is. And I will see you guys on here in about 30 seconds. And we'll talk about the actual version of what it means to become your superhuman. Okay? Thanks for being here.